That noise in the background is the little woman. She's recording a YouTube video. Who knew? Two in the family. She's been doing a lot longer than me. So, I had some problems. A lot of my stuff didn't get, it was ruined in the transfer. I don't know why. But anyway, I'll try to talk you through it. There's the head that was supposed to be somewhere in making of it. That's what these little dots are. That is for the spark plugs. They have little protrusions for the plugs. So I'm using it to get them all the right. And then I never noticed that one side of my water jacket bulge is taller. These heads are all in one. What I mean is the cylinder and the heads are welded together. I don't know if they can. They'd have to cut it apart to replace a cylinder. Like World War I aircraft, they were all welded together. Then they put in the valve guide seal, the valve guides, and all that to go into the cylinder. Anyway, that's what these are for. Is for the 4 plugs per cylinder, or 4 plugs per cylinder, 4 plugs per bank, forward and back bank. That'd be weird. Four plugs per cylinder, wouldn't it? So anyway, that's what I'm doing here is putting on for the plugs. I'm going to sand them down a little bit. I haven't done it yet. I got a lot of stuff to do to this yet before I even begin on the crankcase. Then when it gets together, I have more stuff. I'm kind of smoothing it out with the liquid glue, moving it around. Like I said, I had some trouble with this one, besides showing my arm, to even work. Finally had to pare it down, thank God. Anyway, I'm using some glue and sprue goo to fill some. Right now mine was super thick. I got it zoomed in so you can see what I'm doing more. I'm just using it to fill seams that somewhere along the line, besides me working off screen, the plastic changed. Usually when you'd use a clear glue, you'd have a seamless. When you'd use a liquid glue, you'd end up with a seamless thing. Now, I'm making the top of the cylinder head. And I don't know if this one shows it or not, but I also did for the water jacket also. That's at the very bottom of the cylinder's water jacket. I don't know. I don't know. Depends on what got saved. I got sick of screwing with it. Anyway, I'm just cutting out roughly what each head roughly looks like on the top to glue them down. And I don't care if it's wide right now because it's going to be trimmed back. This car has got to have the longest rocker arms I have ever seen on any vehicle, period. Just absolutely huge. Or any motor, I should say. Okay, done showing it off. There we go. That's what it looks like. Sorry Forgot to delete some. You can see the two water jacket ones on the cylinder, or just below the plug wires. One per bank, two per bank. All I'm doing here is just trimming it back to make it fit. Or not make it fit, to fit closer. Somewhere along the line here I changed to a sharper blade. This one here has been in service a while, so I'm just rounding it because you can tell in the photo that it's actually just one solid piece. You can see where the cast line is. And that thing must have weighed a lot. And I also noticed that they could actually tack as many cylinders as they wanted to onto each other. The back fits the front and the front fits the back. Ain't that weird? Like they could have an inline 12, an inline 8, inline 10, inline 6. It's the way it looks. I'm not sure if it is so. Because I know there's some problem with crank, unless they put some sort of a coupling between the cranks, crank breakage when they get so long. I've never seen an inline 12. Right now I'm just cleaning it up between the cylinders there. Okay, there's the one where it's, sorry, you get to see the same old one. Notice the flickering. That is nothing but my wash machine going, and I have my light plugged into the wrong outlet. So they have I'm going to say fins, but that ain't what they are. They are to strengthen the cylinders, I guess, from the massive weight above and everything else. The only thing aluminum on it is the crankcase. Everything else is iron. I didn't want it to move around, and I wanted to be able to take it off easy. Like I said, I lost a lot, kind of made me upset. I finally got the thing figured out to get the camera to the right resolution. All I did is I stretched a bunch of sprue to get that to make these. I was still short. I stretched 4, 5 or 6 inch lengths, and I still ended up short. Of course, I cut them long so I could handle them, I thought. Sorry, taking a drink of Diet Coke. The other part I'm missing is those things in between that holds the I don't even know what they call it. What it is a tube that they feed the plug wires through to each cylinder. They do that on aircraft at the time. And those two things are there, and I didn't put the shelf on it because I thought I'd break it off in the middle of all this junk I'm doing. Then naturally, it wants to stick to everything but what I'm trying to glue it to. Here I'm looking for my scraps. This is the I'm working on the right driver's, well, not driver's side, passenger side of the vehicle. On this car, it'd be American, it'd be the driver's side. They were supposed to have a co-pilot or a co-driver. What he did is he kept the air pump going to keep fuel pressure in the tank. Who knew? That's where it gets a bit fuzzy. There's 3 of them left or 4 left. One I seen where they had a fuel tank, and I'm talking about Blitzen Benz lookalikes. The one I'm going off from is actually made of parts of the Blitzen Benz, and so I don't know how accurate it is. So I'm looking at other stuff. This one guy I found in England. He was driving this thing at I can't think of it. It's a big event they have there for old cars and that, where they drive around. People show up from all over. I want to say it's a hill climb, but I'm not sure. Anyway, he did it, and they showed him driving it from the driver's perspective, and half the sound was gone. But it was interesting because you have to reach over and hit the air pump between the 2 seats and start pumping. It's a tire pump looking thing. And I was like, oh, cool. I gotta remember to add that. Because on aircraft, they had the tire pump to pump the tank up, right? But they would have to, once the motor got started, it had a motor-driven air pump to keep the tank pressurized. And I don't know what poundage, it can't be much, but man, you think about that pressure in your tank, and if you have a crash, atomized fuel everywhere. Anyway, all those doing, now I want to do the base of the cylinders, and I have 20 thousandths, which is too thick, and 10 thousandths is too thin. So I'm making a handmade 15 out of 20 thousandths. I'm just scraping the roughness off. That way it's got a new place to go to. It never fails. You always do the middle harder than the outside, especially with the tape. It works, but if I'd have been smart, I just glued something to it. I just thought of that. Lightning quick mind. Anyway, that guy in England, so I went and watched some stuff on it. And he's sitting there and he's going to start the Benz, and next thing you know, I hear, what? It's got an electric starter? Like, oh, what a letdown. So he has electric starter in his. So, and what I've seen of the starting procedure, the one in Florida, the one I'm copying, kind of like, it's one I'm calling somewhat true. It's a rigmarole to get started. There's a bunch more stuff, especially on the head. We got priming cups. I don't know if they're putting benzene in them now, but they used to. And I want it to be wider, so I don't care if the pencil's a little fat. I'll trim it down, and there's bolts that bolt that down to the top of the nuts. I should say bolts it down to the top of the crankcase. By the way, the oil pan and crankcase are there's no oil pan because it is a part of the crankcase. So, kind of weird. Not what we're used to. The only thing that was different about this, of course, it's older, and it's not the same thing. This thing was made to set speed records. Was aircraft, German aircraft in World War I, they had a the carburetor breathed through a hole in the crankcase. They actually had a hole that wasn't, the oil couldn't get in there, but that would warm the air so they wouldn't get carburetor ice. That's the only thing I could think of. I did a little bit of flying, and you never want carburetor ice, so anyway, that's the only thing I could think of that they did it for. And since you're on the ground, you don't worry about carburetor ice. Well, that's why they used to on the old cars have that tube going down to the top of to suck in warm air through a vacuum. Thanks for watching. Like,